We're getting ready for our first scientific dive here off Captain Pat's boat that he's donated to the Honolulu River Heritage Foundation. And this boat we're going to sail throughout the Hawaiian Islands and do similar type dive research projects on each island. So here, on behalf of the University of Hawaii and NOAA and the USGS and the DAR, we're documenting the coral reefs out here, and right behind us we have beautiful Honolulu Bay. And we're tracking a coral disease that's turned out to be the worst coral disease ever documented in the Hawaiian Islands, and maybe the worst coral disease ever documented in the world. So what we need to do is we need to have a research boat like this, and some Zodiacs and scuba divers like Patrick here and myself, and get out with high-def video cameras and document every single one of the reefs up and down the North Shore of Hawaii and other places in Hawaii. And then we will be able to see what's going on in the reef at any given time. So if it gets diseased or changed, we will follow and know what's happening. So what we're going to do today off the big research boat is we got our little dive Zodiac, and we're going to be out scuba diving with the dive gear. And with the scuba diving gear here, that allows us to be underwater for usually about an hour at a time. And we can cover about 50 yards of the reef out here real slow with the high-def video. So Patrick's going to be diving with me and help kind of point out where some of the disease is. Then we also have a program called the Eyes of the Reef program through the DAR. And I'm training Patrick right now actually how to study and find this cyanobacteria. So he can go out on his own or with some of the other divers here and look for it. And we can have people sometimes out at all these different reefs. So before we go out diving, we actually have a lot of stuff to put together. This is a high-definition movie camera, similar to the one that Raj is using right now to take this video. This is a hard drive movie camera. What that means is that we can video underwater for about an hour and a half and never turn off the camera. So what I'll do, and this is a very good high-definition movie camera, when we put the camera in the housing, we're actually going to follow a straight line down the reef, about 50 yards, turn around, and then we're going to do a straight line down the reef another 50 yards. It's called a transect survey, but we're going to do it with a video camera. That way we see every coral and marine creature there, and then we see every coral and marine creature here. Now what we can do is we can go back into the lab or on the boat here tonight and look at the video, because this camera sees 30% better than my eyes. So we're going to see more disease and more problems with the camera on the computer than Patrick and I will see when we're out here in person. So the way we work this computer is we just simply turn it on, or the camera, turn it on, and then it goes into this waterproof housing here. And this waterproof housing here can go down to at least 1,000 feet deep. I've used it underwater now for over 1,000 hours doing the high-def video. So we mount the camera inside the housing. And then we put it in and we lock it in and make sure it's shut. The biggest nightmare for dive researchers or any underwater videographer is not getting the housing completely shut. You go in the water, you go down to 30, 40 feet deep, and it leaks and ruins the camera. And that's actually happened to me a couple times. So you gotta live and learn on this project. Now with the camera, what's pretty interesting is it'll run full time now. So that way, if we're doing a video like this and all of a sudden a tiger shark goes by, we can go vroom like that and get a video of it. Also, it's a high-def video camera, so every frame is large enough in size that we can make a big still picture out of every frame. Now, Patrick's never used the camera underwater before, but I know he knows the principles. How heavy is that thing?
Well, it's about 25 pounds.
Yeah, it's about 25 pounds.
Yeah.
But you'll see when you get in the water, it floats. Because there's so much air inside here, so it's buoyant. So we have weights in our dive gear, and I actually have to have heavier weights in my dive gear to keep me on the bottom with the camera. But what's really cool is it's easy to use. You just point and shoot and go real slow. So I'll have Patrick do some of the videoing today of some of the coral disease as we go. But this thing will float if you let go of it. Really super good camera to use. But sometimes it's often difficult doing underwater videography and scuba diving and paying attention to the reef and the problems at the same time. So sometimes we have some goofy stuff happen. So, what do you think? You ready to go for a dive?
I'm ready to go.
I know I'm hot. Let's go. The nice thing about having a central research boat like the Morning Star is we can hoist our Zodiac dive boats up onto the deck when we travel and go to different locations to study the reefs. Here we put our little red Zodiac down in the water and zoomed over to the edge of the reef in Hanalei Bay. I've been doing the ongoing coral study here for about 5 years now, so Patrick and I are going to go for a dive and document the reef and see how it looks today and how the disease has progressed. This reef in Hanalei is right at the famous surf spot, the Hanalei Bowl. It's about a 40-foot cliff. 10 years ago, it used to be covered with live coral. Now there's only a little bit of coral smattered around on the rocky surface. It's actually quite a beautiful dive site. One of the reasons I'd moved to Hanalei to begin with is because I could dive and surf in beautiful Hanalei Bay. But the coral diseases that we're having and the mud problems are damaging the reef, and they don't look near as pretty as they used to a few years back. Patrick and I go up and down the bowl, take video of each individual coral, and count how many diseases that we find along a certain transect. We do this over and over every month or so, and that gives us an idea as to how fast the disease is killing the coral reefs along the north shore of Hanalei. The reef at Hanalei here, because of this straight up and down cliff and shallow area, makes an extremely good surf spot. We all love it. The corals that grow on the reef actually cause the waves to be more hollow and to be more perfect. The corals drag on the underside of the wave, making it better to surf. The corals also reduce the impact of the waves before they hit the beaches in Hanalei. If you kill the corals, there's going to be more impact from the surf that actually goes and causes bad erosion along the beaches, which is going to harm many of the homes that are built very close to the seashore. It's super important to take care of coral reefs. We're not doing a great job of it here in Hanalei, and we're also trying to find out by scuba diving all throughout the Hawaiian Islands and looking at other reefs. We hope to figure out what is causing the reefs to die here locally on the North Shore of Kauai. Once we're done with the dive, we can jump back in the little Zodiac and zoom back over to the Morning Star. This is really very beneficial because the Morning Star has enough room to house and sleep 9 people with a full kitchen, bathrooms, and everything that you need to make a laboratory on board to study the reefs. So we go on and off the Morning Star, do our dive studies, come back aboard, and then we can download the footage that we just got done taking, process the footage, relax, have some lunch, and get ready for our next dive in a different location. Well, we just got done with our dive out on the reef, filming the reef, and documented some of the coral disease. We didn't see a lot right there on the edge, this edge of the Hanalei Reef, which is good. The reef looked really beautiful, except for some damage from some mud and growth of these little critters called zoanthoids. So what we do is we unload the camera now when we get back from the dive, and we simply take the camera here, add it to the line, whatever we call this thing, and download the footage onto the hard drive of the computer. And we're not going to have to do this right now.
Boom!
Okay. So we just got done doing an hour of movies. It takes about 15 minutes to download the footage now to the computer. Once we have that downloaded, then we can sit down and relax and go over the entire footage, pull out the pictures of the diseased reef or corals or whatever important pictures, and then uplink them from the boat right here right to the University of Hawaii and NOAA for analysis from some of the experts on the coral reefs that are working with us at the university. And then we'll get all set up and maybe do another dive later on this evening in another part of the